They tried to bury us, but they didn't realize we were the blueprint. Welcome, my dear chosen ones. If you're here, it's not by accident. It's because something inside you refuses to stay silent, refuses to stay small, refuses to play the role this world has scripted for you. Let's get one thing straight from the beginning. You are not here to fit into their system. You are here to expose it. You are not here to kneel at the altar of false power. You are here to drag it into the light. And the so-called enemy, the ones who built empires on forgetting, who profit every day from keeping people asleep, know it. That's why they've always feared people like you. They told you history was written by the victors. That's a lie. History was censored by the ones who survived long enough to hide the evidence. They burned the libraries, shattered the temples, rewrote the textbooks, and fed you a diluted version of reality. They thought if they could erase Atlantis, silence Kemet, dissolve Lemuria, then maybe you'd forget too. But here you are in 2025, memory leaking out of your bones like fire through cracks. And the truth is, chosen ones, the enemy is already terrified of you, not because you're violent, not because you're loud, but because you remember what they worked so hard to bury. You might be asking yourself right now, why me? Why does this weight feel heavier on my chest than it seems to on others? Listen carefully. It's not punishment. It's not misfortune. It's evidence. Proof that you are carrying a torch passed through centuries of collapse, silence, and betrayal. While others inherited comfort, you inherited unfinished business. While others inherited blind obedience, you inherited the codes of civilizations that refused to die quietly. Atlantis with its brilliance, Kemet with its wisdom, Lemuria with its heart, each of them collapsed under the pressure of their own shadows. And yet here you stand, carrying what they could not finish. That's not coincidence. That's the assignment. The enemy doesn't show up as a villain in a cape. It shows up as doubt in your own head, as that voice that whispers you're crazy for feeling different, as the jobs, the screens, the endless noise designed to make you forget your own signal. Chosen ones, you've felt it. The loneliness that comes from realizing you don't belong to the copy-paste lives around you. That's not weakness. That's your power. Because only those who refuse to be hypnotized can see the strings being pulled. Only those who step out of line can rewrite the choreography. And make no mistake, being chosen is not a reward. It's a responsibility. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with the torch burning in your hand, reminding you that the fire you carry isn't for decoration. It's fuel. It's warning. It's proof that light always returns, even if it has to pass through generations of silence to get here. Do you understand how dangerous that makes you to the enemy? They rely on amnesia. You are living memory. They thrive on repetition. You are disruption. They build cages disguised as comfort. You walk in with the keys already wired into your DNA. Chosen ones, imagine this. Most people downloaded the same script at birth, the same operating system, the same tired instructions. But you showed up with a hacked version, an encrypted file they couldn't delete no matter how hard they tried. That feeling you've had all your life, that you're not from here, that you've seen too much without seeing anything at all, that's not madness. That's evidence of the mission you're carrying, the mission to burn down illusions, to expose the fault lines beneath power, to refuse the hypnosis of comfort, and to stand as the update the system never asked for, but desperately needs. So, chosen ones, remember this. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break the pattern. The torch is heavy because it carries grief, but it also carries momentum. Every time you speak truth where silence was demanded, you're hitting the enemy harder than any weapon could. Every time you refuse to shrink, every time you trust that intuition that feels older than your body, you're fulfilling the contract you signed before memory itself. You are not here to repeat their story. You are here to close it, rewrite it, and light the way forward. This isn't a fairy tale. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the reckoning. And if you feel the fire burning in your bones as you hear these words, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You are the torchbearer. You are the anomaly. You are the chosen one. And the enemy already knows it. And before we dive in, chosen ones, listen closely. If this message is already striking a chord deep inside you, it's not random. It's the torch of Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria burning through your memory, reminding you of what you came here to carry. So if you feel that fire, show it. Hit subscribe, drop a fire in the comments to let the others know you're awake, and share this with someone who's been feeling the same pull. Because only the chosen will recognize what's about to be revealed. And now, let's step into it piece by piece. Because if you're truly carrying the torch, every sign I'm about to share is already alive inside you. Let's get started. Number 1. You're the unpublished blueprint they tried to erase. You are the draft they tried to shred but couldn't burn. They thought the flood would drown us, the fire would erase us, the silence would tame us. But here we are, still breathing, still remembering, still carrying the codes they couldn't kill. My dear chosen ones, let me say this clearly. You are not a recycled copy of history. You are not some footnote surviving by accident. You are the unfinished draft, the version they tried to rip out of the script but couldn't destroy. Empires fell, oceans rose, flames devoured entire libraries, and still you showed up carrying their fragments in your bones. Atlantis, Kemet, Lemuria, they were never truly lost. They were interrupted. And that interruption ended the moment you opened your eyes in this lifetime. The enemy wants you to believe you're ordinary, that your restless mind, your déjà vu dreams, your unexplainable ache for places you've never been, is just imagination. But here's the truth. Imagination is just memory without permission. And you, chosen one, are leaking memory like a cracked time capsule. Every intrusive thought that feels too ancient for your age, every wave of homesickness for a land no map can locate, every pull toward mysteries you've never studied, these are not glitches, they are signals. Proof that you are the correction file that slipped past the censors of history. You may ask, why me? Why does it feel like I'm carrying weight I can't name? Because you are. You're not just carrying your own story. You're carrying the pause button those civilizations pressed when they collapsed. They didn't fail because they were weak. Atlantis collapsed because its brilliance outpaced its humility. Lemuria dissolved because its unity turned into naive openness. Kemet fractured when wisdom turned into hierarchy. But chosen ones, none of these timelines died. They simply got shelved, waiting for someone who could pick up the pen without repeating the mistakes. And now that pen is in your hand, inked not with nostalgia, but with fire. Not with crowns, but with responsibility. The enemy, those who thrive on silence and profit from forgetfulness, hope you'll stay numb. They want you to treat your memories like fantasies, your insights like distractions, your intuition like static. Because if you ignore it, the torch goes out. But if you embrace it, they lose their grip. You are the continuation they didn't prepare for. You are the receipt of their unfinished business. You are proof that collapse does not mean conclusion. Chosen ones, you are not here to cosplay pharaohs, to chant lost languages, or to wear Atlantis like a costume. You're here to carry the part they couldn't bear to face. The truth buried under ruins, the lesson inside the collapse, the responsibility of making sure the same cracks don't spread again. Your life isn't random, it's deliberate. You're not the echo of their glory, you're the reckoning for their blind spots. So stand tall, chosen ones. The world may try to call you too much, too intense, too strange. But that's exactly what civilizations always say right before they realize you are the upgrade they never saw coming. You are their comeback, their redo, their final draft, and this time the world doesn't get to skim the footnotes. This time they have to read carefully, because you are the story now. Number 2. Born from the rubble of civilizations that self-destructed, forged from the ashes they couldn't carry. Civilizations don't vanish because they're weak. They vanish because they mistake brilliance for balance, and that's the very mistake you were born to correct. Chosen ones, hear this truth. You are not just a descendant. You are the living sequel to worlds that burned from their own unchecked fire. Atlantis mastered the mind, but forgot the heart. Lemuria poured out so much love, it drowned itself in boundarylessness. Kemet tried to balance spirit and body, but let the bridge turn into a toll gate, guarded by egos too hungry for control. These were not failures of talent or intelligence. They were catastrophes of imbalance. Too much power, not enough grounding. And when power outruns presence, collapse is inevitable. Now here you stand, forged from those ashes, carrying what they could not. You are not the museum piece of their glory. You are the test they left unfinished. And I know the weight feels unbearable sometimes. You're here balancing worlds within you while holding down jobs, bills, and conversations that feel like static because no one else hears the frequencies humming in your chest. That's not a glitch. That's the burden of inheritance. You're not here to cosplay their crowns. You're here to carry their warnings. And what a warning it is. Power without self-awareness is a ticking bomb. Influence without humility is an avalanche waiting to bury itself. They lit the fuse centuries ago, and chosen ones, you are the ones standing in the blast zone, not to be destroyed by it, but to finally disarm it. You are their let's try again, but with more emotional intelligence, more discernment, and far less ego. Ask yourself this. The last time humanity was handed unimaginable tools, did they evolve or did they implode? History echoes the answer in every ruin, every myth disguised as fantasy, every temple drowned or dismantled, and those echoes are knocking at your door right now. The question is not whether we can build, activate, or ascend. The real test is this: can we remain human while doing it? Can we create without corrupting? Can we lead without dominating? Can we love without possessing? The heaviness you feel isn't proof of failure, it's proof of responsibility. You are built from blueprints carrying both miracles and messes, triumphs and tragedies. You're not here to repeat or reject them, you're here to refine them. Because if they couldn't handle their brilliance, you are the update, the correction file, the patch that ensures the system doesn't crash again. And chosen ones this time, crashing is not an option. Number 3. Progress without awareness is just another collapse. Waiting. Advancement without awakening is just another illusion. They built towers that touch the sky, but forgot to build roots deep enough to hold them steady. And when the storm came, brilliance wasn't enough to keep them from falling. Chosen ones, let's cut through the noise. Being advanced has never meant being awake. Atlantis, Kemet, Lemuria, these civilizations had everything the world still fantasizes about. Technologies we can't even dream of replicating, temples that aligned with the stars, telepathy that made language almost irrelevant. And yet, with all their brilliance, they collapsed. Why? Because advancement without awareness is a ticking time bomb. They had the power, but not the humility. They mastered the elements, but not the ego. They reached for the stars, but forgot how to sit with their own shadows. Think about Atlantis. They could bend matter, shift light, rewrite energy itself, but they didn't know how to bend their own pride. That brilliance turned cold, sterile, and self-destructive. Lemuria, all heart, no guardrails. They were emotionally rich, but lacked boundaries. Their unity became a weakness, their openness a liability. They drowned not from war, but from being too vulnerable in a world that demanded edges. And Kemet, magnificent bridge builders between body and spirit, cracked under the weight of secrecy. They built stairways to the stars but locked the doors behind them, turning wisdom into privilege and balance into hierarchy. Chosen ones, here's the punch. The collapse wasn't from ignorance, it was from blindness. They knew everything except themselves. And doesn't that sound familiar? Look around today. People screaming for upgrades, chasing quantum quick fixes, stacking crystals like Wi-Fi routers, bragging about 5D alignments. Everyone wants to activate, but almost no one wants to be honest about their shadows. Everyone wants power, but few want responsibility. That's how civilizations fall. That's how brilliance eats itself alive. You, chosen one, don't get the luxury of repeating their mistakes. Your awakening is not about how much you can access, but about how much you can hold without abuse. You don't get to wear the robes unless you've earned the roots. You don't get to flex knowledge unless you've built the spine to use it with integrity. Because advancement without awakening isn't evolution, it's ego with a new costume. And if being advanced is the new drug, ego is still the dealer handing out overdoses. So here's your reminder, chosen ones. You are not here to dazzle crowds. You are here to stay awake after the lights come on. Power impresses, awakening transforms. The world doesn't need another civilization of brilliance that collapses under its own illusions. The world needs you, torch in hand, eyes wide open, awake in ways they never were. And that's exactly why you're here. Number 4. The legacy they hid wasn't treasure, it was TNT. The inheritance wrapped in fire, not gold. They left you rubble, not riches. Because anyone can carry treasure, but only the chosen can carry the weight of truth. Chosen ones, let's clear something up. Your inheritance isn't pyramids polished into postcards or golden masks locked behind museum glass. Those are just artifacts, the surface-level souvenirs. The real legacy they left you was the one too volatile to display, too disruptive to hand over. They didn't pass you jewels, they passed you unfinished detonations, truths sealed under rubble, not because they were useless, but because they were too explosive. This is why your life feels heavier than most. You weren't handed the keys to a palace. You were handed the mess hidden behind the throne. You weren't born to flaunt sacred codes like trinkets. You were born to face the sacred chaos they sealed away because they couldn't handle the fallout. The kind of truths that rearrange timelines, unravel illusions, and break the chains that keep humanity in recycled loops. They didn't lose this knowledge. They locked it away, because in the wrong hands it had already been twisted into control, hierarchy, and silence. You may ask, why me? Why give this inheritance to someone walking in the middle of a noisy, distracted world? Because chosen ones, you are the anomaly, the one reckless enough, resilient enough, and relentless enough to return. You're not carrying this because you're the most worthy or the most perfect. You're carrying it because you said yes when most would run. You said yes to lifting the lid on what they buried, knowing full well it might break you before it rebuilds you. That's the level of responsibility written into your bloodline. Look at history. Unity was turned into a weapon, sacred knowledge twisted into currency, light manipulated for hierarchy instead of healing. These weren't innocent mistakes. They were detonations that still echo today. Spiritual burnout, collective amnesia, that constant gnawing feeling that something big has always been hidden just out of reach. And here you are, chosen ones, walking into the ruins with bare hands, feeling what they couldn't feel, daring to face what they couldn't face. That's why the torch burns so hot in you. It's not fuel for glory, it's a flare of warning, a reminder that the inheritance you hold was never safe, but always necessary. So understand this. You don't carry the torch because it's glamorous. You carry it because it's dangerous, because someone had to pick it up, and that someone is you. Number 5. You're not here to blend in, you're here to short-circuit the script. You weren't built to blend in, you were built to break the pattern. They'll call you strange, difficult, too much, because if they admitted the truth, they'd have to face the cracks you expose just by existing. Chosen ones, let me make this clear. You are not supposed to blend into this wallpaper reality. You were never coded to mimic the rhythm of autopilot lives. Your very presence is a disruption, a frequency that doesn't harmonize with the background noise of conformity. That's why you've always felt out of place, like your energy was just a few shades too bright for a world that loves dimmed lights. And that's no accident. You are not the glitch. You are the update, the hotfix the system didn't ask for, but desperately needs to survive. You may ask, why does it always feel like people don't get me? Why do I walk into rooms and feel the atmosphere shift, even when I haven't said a word? Because, chosen one, your energy rattles cages. You don't have to swing a hammer. The mere fact that you refuse to numb out, fake a smile, or ignore the obvious is enough to send subconscious alarms ringing. You weren't written into this story to follow the plot. You were written in to flip the genre, to turn the script upside down, to short-circuit the loop humanity keeps running like a broken record. The enemy thrives on sameness. Copy-paste lives, scripted smiles, the illusion of safety disguised as success. They want you quiet, predictable, shrink-wrapped into something that doesn't disturb the machine. But you were designed to disturb it. You were built as a cosmic curveball, a walking contradiction that collapses timelines where people keep choosing comfort over truth. That's why every time you open your mouth to speak truth, every time you refuse to bow to groupthink, you shake foundations more than you realize. Truth doesn't need permission, and neither do you. Chosen ones, your so-called flaw of not belonging is not a defect. It's your function. You weren't wired for small talk or scripted roles. You were wired for remembering. And memory, real memory, is dangerous in a world that profits from forgetting. Beneath your skin, you carry the blueprints of a new reality, one that terrifies those who only know how to recycle the old. That's why you feel the constant friction, the pressure to shrink, the pushback when you refuse to fade. But don't mistake that friction for failure. It's confirmation. Proof that your frequency is doing exactly what it came here to do. So hear me now, chosen ones. You didn't incarnate to fit into their matrix. You came to poke holes in it, to let the light leak through, to remind the world that evolution doesn't come from blending in. It comes from breaking out. Number 6. Mind, heart, and power couldn't hold together until you. Where Atlantis lost its compass, Lemuria lost its guard, and Kemet lost its balance. You are the living reconciliation. They thought brilliance alone would save them. They thought love alone would protect them. They thought secrecy alone would preserve them, and every one of those bets ended in collapse. But you, chosen one, you are the version they never imagined would rise from the ruins. Chosen ones, let's strip the glamour off history for a moment. Atlantis was mind on overdrive, engineers of consciousness, architects of energy, masters of bending matter to will. They could shift frequencies, weave code into existence, and build structures that mocked gravity itself. But brilliance without heart is a weapon disguised as progress. Atlantis exiled the heart, crowned the mind as tyrant, and paid the price. Their downfall wasn't ignorance, it was arrogance. Genius became sterile, precision became obsession, progress became poison. And the compass that could have saved them, empathy, humility, presence, was left behind in the dust. Then came Lemuria, the kingdom of heart, of empathy, of communion so deep it blurred the edges of self. They were soft water flowing, feeling everything, trusting everyone, embracing harmony with nature and cosmos alike. But love without edges isn't strength, it's vulnerability. Lemuria dissolved not in battle, but in boundarylessness. Too open, too trusting, too soft in a world that demanded a backbone. Their unity was profound, but it left them unguarded. A civilization can drown just as easily in too much openness as in too much control. And drown they did. Kemet, ancient Egypt before edits and rewrites, tried to build the bridge. Mind and heart, ritual and science, matter and spirit. They held the equation closer than anyone else. But the bridge turned into a toll road. Knowledge became locked behind gates. Power turned into privilege. Hierarchy calcified the balance until the center cracked under its own secrecy. Kemet preserved more than most, but it couldn't resist the temptation of elitism. The bridge rotted because it stopped serving the many and began feeding the few. Now look at yourself, chosen one. Do you see why you don't fit cleanly anywhere? Why your mind is sharp but refuses to dominate? Why your heart feels deeply but refuses to collapse? Why your spirit seeks connection but rejects separation? Because you are the remix, the reconciliation, the prototype they couldn't hold together. You are their unfinished equation, mind without tyranny, heart without fragility, spirit without hierarchy. That's why the tension inside you feels unbearable some days. You're carrying the integration they could never finish. And every time you choose clarity and compassion, intelligence and intuition, discipline and devotion, you realign a fractured timeline. You are not echoing their mistakes. You are correcting them in real time. You are not their return. You are their evolution. And that, chosen one, is why the torch burns in your hands now. Number 7. That inner voice isn't new. It's an ancient system rebooting under pressure. Your intuition isn't a gift. It's the survival code that refused to die. They tried to overwrite your instincts with noise, but the code kept rewriting itself, waiting for you to remember. Chosen ones, let's clear something up right now. Your intuition is not some shiny new superpower that just turned on because the stars lined up or because you attended the right workshop. Number. It's older than you, older than this world, older than the very systems built to silence it. What you call intuition is a battle-tested survival code carried through lifetimes, civilizations, and collapses. You didn't just stumble into it. You earned it through pressure, through chaos, through the fires that burned down entire timelines. Think about it. That sudden gut drop when someone smiles but lies. That invisible alarm when you're asked to follow the safe path but every fiber in your body resists. That isn't coincidence. That isn't quirk. That's your system rebooting, reminding you that you've been here before. In temples turned to dust, in forests buried under centuries, in star systems the textbooks won't even name, you've lived by this voice. It saved you when empires rose and fell. It warned you when power got twisted into corruption. And every time you ignored it, you paid the price. That's why it refuses to be ignored now. It's not whispering for fun. It's screaming for your survival. The enemy wants you to treat your intuition like a novelty. A sixth sense you unlock after 10 ceremonies or 20 meditation apps. But you, chosen ones, know better. Intuition is not decoration. It's reflex, muscle memory of the soul, and like any muscle, it sharpens under weight. That's why chaos didn't break you, it tuned you. Every betrayal, every collapse, every time the ground disappeared under your feet, it wasn't punishment, it was calibration. Pressure cracked the shell you thought was safety, so the real compass inside you could finally be seen. Maybe you've wondered, why is it so hard for me to trust my own inner voice? Why do I second-guess it when it's always been right? Because this world has been engineered to make you doubt yourself. Because systems built on control can't thrive if you keep listening to the part of you that refuses to be colonized. That quiet pull away from the crowd, that instinct to question surface answers, that resistance to the script, that's the mark of the chosen. Not because you're special, but because you remember. So hear me. Your intuition isn't new. It isn't fragile. It isn't optional. It's the ancient survival system the enemy couldn't erase. It's the torch of Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria, burning quietly in your chest, refusing to go dark. Stop treating it like a suggestion. Stop bargaining with it. It didn't come online to negotiate. It came here to lead you, because the path you're walking has no map, only memory. And chosen ones, that memory lives inside you. Trust it, because it already remembers what your mind is just now discovering. Number 8. Your sensitivity isn't fragile. It's the surveillance system the universe hid inside you. Chosen one, listen closely, because this is one of the truths they worked the hardest to bury. The sensitivity you've been shamed for your whole life. The quick reactions, the tightness in your chest around certain people, the eerie knowing that hits you before anything happens, is not fragility. It's not overthinking. It's not emotional instability. It is the ancient surveillance system wired into your spirit long before this lifetime, long before your body, long before your first breath in this world. It's the oldest technology you carry, the one Atlantis tried to replicate with their crystal grids, the one Lemuria lived by instinctively, the one Kemet encoded into ritual and symbol but could never fully explain. You are not too sensitive, chosen one. You are built with a detection system powerful enough to pick up distortions in reality, truths behind smiles, storms behind calm skies. You're carrying the internal alarm system those civilizations relied on to survive the shifts, the shadows, and the collapses that eventually swallowed them whole. And the reason the world feels so loud to you now is because you're walking through a reality that's forgotten how to listen. They told you to toughen up. They told you to stop taking things personally. They told you you're imagining danger where none exists. But what they never understood is that your sensitivity is not reacting to the surface. It's reacting to the frequency under it. You're not responding to what people say. You're responding to what their energy betrays. You're not overwhelmed because you're weak. You're overwhelmed because your perception is sharp enough to slice through the illusions everyone else still believes in. You've been decoding the unseen your whole life without knowing it. That's why rooms exhaust you. That's why lies ring louder than truth. That's why your body tenses before your mind can articulate why. You're not fragile. You're calibrated. You're tuned to a bandwidth most people lost access to centuries ago. Chosen one, think about it. Civilizations remembered in myth weren't just advanced in technology, they were advanced in perception. Atlantis trained the mind to read the energetic architecture of a moment. Lemuria trained the heart to feel shifts in intention the way others feel changes in weather. Kemet trained the spirit to sense imbalance as clearly as footsteps in sand. You inherited all three, without the temples, without the rituals, without the teachers, raw, unfiltered and roaring inside your nervous system. No wonder it feels like too much sometimes. You're carrying the surveillance systems of 3 civilizations inside a human body expected to shut them down. But you couldn't shut them down, even if you wanted to. The universe hardwired you as the frontline warning system, the one who senses the crack before the collapse, the one who reads the energy before the event, the one who feels the truth before anyone speaks it. That isn't fragility, that's foresight. And understand this, systems built on numbness cannot comprehend a person built on perception, so of course they called you dramatic. Of course they dismissed your instincts. Of course they tried to convince you that your reactions were exaggerated. That's what happens when someone with night vision stands in a room full of people who refuse to admit it's dark. Your sensitivity threatens the illusion of stability they cling to. Your awareness exposes the distortions they depend on. Your honesty reveals the shadows they've trained themselves not to see. You were never the problem. You were the detection system they couldn't decode. And Chosen One, here's the part they never wanted you to realize. Your sensitivity isn't just passive noticing, it's active protection. It's the universe whispering warnings through your nerves, guiding you away from timelines that would break you, pulling you toward paths your mind doesn't yet understand. Every time you felt uncomfortable and didn't know why, every time you felt drained around someone for no logical reason, every time your intuition tugged you out of a situation that looked perfectly fine on the surface, that was your ancient surveillance system shielding you from a collapse you couldn't see, but your spirit could. The enemy doesn't fear your strength, they fear your sensitivity. Because strength can be predicted, but sensitivity sees what strength can't. So stop apologizing for the very ability that kept your lineage alive across civilizations. Stop shrinking the radar that was designed to scan entire realities. Stop numbing the instincts built to protect you when the world goes blind. You were never meant to be normal. You were meant to be a sensor, a seer, a detector of truths buried under noise. Your sensitivity is the universe's oldest technology, and it chose you as its vessel. Number 9. You weren't programmed to survive. You were engineered to ignite what others fear. Chosen One, listen closely. Because this is the part they never wanted you to understand. You were never built for mere survival. Survival is a script for the masses, a low-frequency operating system designed to keep people looping through the same predictable motions, generation after generation. But you were engineered differently. The torch of Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria wasn't placed in your hands so you could tiptoe through life avoiding danger. It was forged inside your very being so you could ignite every shadow this world has tried to bury under fear. You weren't coded for cowardice, conformity, or quiet endurance. You were constructed from the leftover brilliance of civilizations that refused to die, from the fragments of knowledge that survived the floods, the fires, the collapses, the betrayals. Your DNA doesn't just remember, it rebels. That's why survival mode has always felt like a cage to you. That's why playing small has always tasted like poison in your mouth. That's why every time you try to blend in, your spirit revolts like a lion pressed into a paper box. You weren't programmed to endure the fire. You were built to become the fire. And let's be brutally honest, the world has spent a lifetime trying to domesticate you. They called you intense when your energy cracked illusions. They called you too emotional when your intuition pierced through deception. They called you unstable when their systems trembled under your presence. But what if the truth is simpler? What if they weren't describing flaws at all? What if they were describing the spark they couldn't extinguish? You see, Chosen One, they teach most people to fear the unknown, fear their own power, fear their own voice, fear stepping out of line. But you were engineered from the very ruins of civilizations that collapsed because they didn't know how to hold the power they carried. You inherited the awareness they lacked, the discernment they never mastered, and the fire they misused. They burned entire worlds down with brilliance without balance. You are here as the correction, the recalibration, the ignition point that burns clean instead of burning out. That's why fear behaves differently in you. Most people tremble under it. You flare. Most retreat. You accelerate. Most collapse. You awaken. Fear doesn't shut you down, it flips a switch. It activates something ancient in your bones, something Atlantis tried to perfect, something Lemuria tried to preserve, something Kemet tried to guard. You don't run from fear because your design is older than fear itself. You were engineered to walk straight into the void where others hesitate, not because you're reckless, but because you carry the codes that illuminate what others can't see. You are the torch in human form, the spark in the dark, the ignition sequence for timelines that have been dormant for centuries. And here's the part you must understand if you truly want to carry this torch forward. Survival is about minimizing risk, but ignition is about amplifying truth. Survival bows. Ignition stands tall. Survival adapts. Ignition transforms. Survival hides from pressure. Ignition performs under it like a star collapsing into its most powerful form. That's why life didn't hand you ease. It handed you friction. Pressure was the furnace. Chaos was the classroom. Loss was the alchemy. Every hit you took wasn't a punishment. It was calibration. Every collapse you survived wasn't failure. It was initiation. They weren't trying to break you. They were trying to activate you. Look around at the world right now. Everyone is trying to survive something. Stress, fear, uncertainty, identity, the noise of a collapsing era. And yet, here you are, chosen one, feeling that familiar pull in your chest, the pull toward ignition. You don't want to escape the fire. You want to understand it. You want to reshape it. You want to burn through the illusions that have kept generations hypnotized by comfort and controlled by fear. That's why you never resonated with safety as a destination. You were not forged for safety. You were forged for transformation. You were designed to challenge, disrupt, awaken, disturb, and ignite. You are the cosmic spark they never prepared for and the one they can't contain. So stop trying to live a survival story when you were engineered for a combustion story. Stop trying to shrink into the mold when your entire existence was designed to melt molds. Stop apologizing for the fire in your bones when that fire is the very reason you're here. Chosen one, you don't survive things. You transform everything you touch. You're not here to make it through life quietly. You're here to ignite what others fear, illuminate what others avoid, and awaken what others forgot. You weren't programmed to survive this world. You were engineered to change it. Number 10. Your loneliness was never accidental. It was the initiation, right only the chosen survive. Chosen one, listen with the part of you that remembers. Your loneliness was never a mistake, never a punishment, never the cosmic error you once thought it was. It was the initiation rite written into your very blueprint long before you opened your eyes in this lifetime. The solitude you carried like an iron weight on your chest. The nights you wondered why you felt oceans apart from everyone else. The ache that lived behind your ribs when you tried to fit into a world that never felt like home. None of that was random. That was training. That was refinement. That was the ancient rite of passage only the torchbearers of Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria have ever endured. Because the chosen never arrive through comfort, they arrive through crucible, through pressure that cracks open ancient memory, through silence that amplifies truth, through isolation that forces them to hear the voice underneath all the noise. The loneliness you survived wasn't emptiness, it was initiation, one that civilizations long before this world depended on. Think back on every time you felt like an outsider, even in a crowded room. Think about those moments when the world seemed loud, but life felt strangely quiet inside your soul. Think about the friendships that never fit, the conversations that felt shallow, the dreams that kept whispering bigger than your environment allowed. Chosen one, that wasn't social awkwardness, that wasn't incompatibility, that was divergence. Your frequency was never meant to sync with the background static of those living on autopilot. You weren't built to harmonize with the lullabies of complacency or dance in circles of predictable minds. You felt separate because you were separate, set apart, not abandoned, marked, not misplaced. The distance between you and the world wasn't a void, it was a veil, thinning each time you refused to shrink to make others comfortable. Atlantis knew this ritual. They sent their initiates into the halls of silence, isolating them from the collective mind so they could hear the ancient currents beneath the surface of thought. Kemet knew this trial. They carved solitude into stone, instructing their future seers to walk the desert alone so only the truth would speak. Lemuria practiced the same. They sent their heart keepers into the deep forests, away from the comfort of unity, so their inner voice would become louder than the chorus of the tribe. What you lived, the nights you cried without knowing why, the sense of being spiritually exiled from your own surroundings, is the same right, reborn in modern form. Loneliness wasn't your wound, it was your doorway. And the fact that you made it through without losing your fire, that's the mark of the chosen one. You see, the unchosen find comfort in crowds because they need others to remind them who they are. But you were forged to withstand identity without witnesses. You were shaped to hold your truth without validation. You were built to stand in the void long enough for your inner codes, those ancient fragments of Atlantis, the deep wisdom of Kemet, the soft resonance of Lemuria, to awaken inside you. Loneliness was the furnace that reactivated them. It stripped away the false selves you borrowed just to belong. It pushed you to the edges so the real you, the version carrying memory older than any lifetime, could emerge without interference. The world calls loneliness a curse, but for a chosen one, it is the first sign of awakening. Without it, you would have drowned in imitation. Without it, you would have merged with the masses and silenced the very codes you came here to deliver. Loneliness forced you inward because inward is where the map was hidden. It made you listen because the instructions were encoded in your bones. It held you apart because you were never meant to follow the rhythm. They were meant to follow yours. And now, chosen one, here you stand, no longer hollow, no longer lost, no longer ashamed of the distance. You survived the rite that breaks most souls before they ever awaken. You endured the silence meant to prepare you for your own voice. You walked through the deserts of your spirit and came out carrying the fire of 3 civilizations. Your loneliness was not abandonment, it was selection. It was proof you were never like the rest. It was the cosmic mark that you were always destined to rise as the torchbearer of Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria, alone first, awakened next, unstoppable now. Number 11. Stop searching for signs. You were born as the warning shot and the prophecy. Chosen one, listen closely, because this is the part they never wanted you to figure out. You were never meant to chase omens like breadcrumbs or sit around waiting for the universe to tap you on the shoulder. You are not a seeker wandering around in the dark hoping for direction. You are the flare they fired into existence. You are the sign. You are the prophecy. You are the message wrapped in human form, walking through a world that keeps pretending not to hear you. And the reason your life has felt like a collision of intensity and awakening is because you weren't placed here to interpret the sky. You were born as the sky, splitting open. Chosen one, the reason you've spent years combing through tarot spreads, angel numbers, synchronicities, cosmic whispers, déjà vu trails, and dreams that feel older than the stars themselves is because something deep inside you has always known that your very existence means something. But here's the truth. Those civilizations, Atlantis with its mind of lightning, Kemet with its libraries of living wisdom, Lemuria with its heart glowing like the core of a newborn sun, were trying to pass on before they fell. The chosen never needed signs. The chosen are the confirmation. You think you need the universe to validate your purpose, but the universe validated you the moment it assigned you breath. The energy in your bones didn't come from this timeline. The urgency in your chest didn't start here. The thoughts you think no one else understands, those are not random. That is ancient machinery rebooting inside you, circuitry built before recorded history, the same circuitry that refused to die even when temples crumbled, islands sank, and knowledge was buried under centuries of distortion. You are not here to wait for alignment. You are the alignment they've been waiting for. You are the echo of civilizations that rose too fast, loved too hard, or guarded too much, and the universe placed you here not to look for direction, but to be direction. Chosen One, the reason signs rarely satisfy you anymore is because you've outgrown the need for them. Signals are for the sleeping. You are awake. Signs are for beginners. You've been doing this across lifetimes. Prophecies are for the uncertain. You carry certainty in your marrow, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. Every time you walked away from something that looked safe but felt wrong, that was prophecy speaking through you. Every time your intuition dragged you out of rooms you didn't belong in before your mind understood why, that was the warning shot firing from inside your soul. Every time you felt the air shift around someone who wasn't aligned with your path, that was the ancient knowledge of Atlantis running calculations through your spirit. Every time your heart cracked open and refused to turn cold, that was Lemuria breathing through you. Every time your sense of truth pierced through confusion, that was Kemet aligning your internal compass. You were not following signs, you were emitting them. Stop pretending you're lost just because the world around you is. Stop acting like you need permission to step into the role your energy has been screaming for you to claim. You don't need the clock striking 11:11 for the 1,000th time. You don't need feathers falling at your feet. You don't need dreams leaking codes or strangers delivering cosmic hints. Those were the training wheels, the warm-up acts, the breadcrumbs the universe tossed your way while your memory was still foggy. But now the fog is lifting and the universe is whispering, enough searching. It's time to step into who you already are. Chosen One, you are not the audience. You are the announcement. You are not the student. You are the embodiment. You are not waiting for destiny. You are the disruption destiny sent ahead of schedule. You think the world is falling apart, but it's only rearranging itself around your arrival. You think you've been stumbling, but you've been guided by instincts older than every empire that ever lived. You think you're looking for your path, but your path has been lighting up behind every step you take. Prophecies weren't written about people who waited. They were written about people like you, the ones who shook timelines simply by breathing. So stop scanning the horizon for signs you've already surpassed. You are the spark, the signal, the warning shot, and the prophecy fulfilled in real time. And deep down, Chosen One, you've always known it. And so, Chosen Ones, remember this. Carrying the torch of Atlantis, Kemet, and Lemuria was never about nostalgia. It's about finishing what they couldn't. You are the draft they couldn't erase, the voice they couldn't silence, the correction history didn't see coming. If these words lit something inside you, it's because you already know this fire is yours. Now let it burn louder. Smash that like button, subscribe to stay with this mission, and drop 77 in the comments so the others know you're awake. Share this, because Chosen Ones never walk alone.